I just finished my second dive and was nursing a mojito when my phone buzzed. Text from my boss. Call me. Now. 3 minutes later, I stood by the pool, water still dripping off my shoulders, listening to her scream that I'd destroyed the entire company. I laughed softly, opened the email with the subject line, Notice of Litigation, 26 matter liability claim, and hit forward. What she didn't know, I'd been preparing for this moment for 5 months. My name is Harper Vale, and I'm 34 years old. For the past 16 months, I've been the head of contract management at Raventon Dynamics, a mid-sized medical technology company that likes to think it's bigger than it actually is. Right now, I'm standing on the private terrace of my beachfront villa in Barbuda, a place so remote that getting a stable phone signal feels like winning the lottery. The irony isn't lost on me. I specifically chose this resort because it's nearly impossible to reach. The booking confirmation actually bragged about their digital detox experience. Yet here I am, phone pressed to my ear, listening to Camilla Rhodes, Vice President of Legal Affairs and my direct supervisor, have what can only be described as a complete mental breakdown. Harper, do you understand what you've done? Her voice cracks through the spotty connection. Corvallis Biotech is suing us for $26 million. $26 million. The breach of contract claim landed on the CEO's desk this morning. I take another sip of my mojito. The bartender, Marcus, made it perfectly, not too sweet, heavy on the mint. The ice clinks against the glass as I set it down on the marble table. I'm on vacation, Camilla, I say, watching a yacht glide across the horizon. Remember, you approved this trip 3 months ago. Said it would be good for me to disconnect and recharge after the Corvallis deal closed. I don't give a damn about your vacation, she's practically shrieking now. The contract you drafted, the one you insisted was airtight, had no data breach protection clause. None. How could you be so incompetent? I almost laugh. Almost, because the contract I drafted absolutely had a data breach protection clause. A comprehensive one, actually. It included a $26 million liability cap if patient data was compromised within the first year of our partnership. I spent 3 days perfecting that clause, consulting with 2 external counsel firms to make sure it was bulletproof, but that's not the version Camilla signed. Check your email, I tell her, my voice steady as the ocean breeze. I just forwarded you something. What are you talking about, Harper? This is not the time for... Just check it. I hear her fingers attacking her keyboard through the phone. The silence that follows is delicious. It stretches for maybe 30 seconds, but I know it feels like 30 years to her. The email I've just sent contains a simple message. As discussed in our meeting on March 15th, please find attached the final contract version with your requested removals highlighted in red, along with my original risk assessment memo, strongly advising against these changes. Attached are 3 documents. My original contract with the data breach clause intact, her email explicitly ordering me to remove it, and the meeting recording where she called my concerns paranoid and deal-breaking nonsense. You. Her voice drops to a whisper. You recorded our meetings. Company policy allows recording for note-taking purposes, I reply. Section 4.3 of the Employee Handbook. You wrote that section yourself, remember? The waves crash against the beach below. A couple walks hand in hand along the shoreline. Paradise continues around me while Camilla's world crumbles 3,000 miles away. This proves nothing, she says. But the confidence has drained from her voice like water from a broken glass. You still should have pushed back harder. A good contract manager would have documented everything and protected the company's interests while following direct orders from their superior. I finish for her. I agree completely. That's why I've also forwarded the entire communication chain to Richard. Richard Brennan, our CEO, a man who doesn't tolerate incompetence and absolutely despises being blindsided by lawsuits. You wouldn't dare. Already did. CC'd the entire board of directors too. They'll probably want to discuss this at Monday's emergency meeting. I pause, letting that sink in. Oh, wait. You didn't know about the emergency meeting? Richard's assistant should be calling you any minute now. As if on cue, I hear another phone ringing in her office. Harper, wait. I end the call and turn off my phone. The afternoon sun warms my face as I lean back in my chair. 5 months of preparation, dozens of saved emails, recorded conversations, and documented evidence of Camilla's systematic dismantling of our legal protections, all for this moment. The mojito tastes even better now. Marcus was right about adding that extra splash of rum. Sometimes, you need to celebrate properly when your patience finally pays off. Tomorrow, I'll check my messages. Maybe. But for now, I have a sunset to watch and a revenge served colder than the ice in my glass. 16 months ago, I was drowning in a toxic law firm that specialized in crushing souls for billable hours. Morrison & Associates had a reputation for excellence and a turnover rate that would make Amazon warehouses look stable. I was pulling 80-hour weeks, reviewing contracts for corporate mergers that meant nothing to anyone except the partners' bank accounts. Then Camilla Rhodes called. I still remember that first conversation. She'd found my profile on LinkedIn, noticed my contract expertise, and my article about risk mitigation and healthcare technology deals. Her voice was warm honey over the phone, nothing like the sharp-edged partners I was used to. Harper, I've been following your work, she'd said. That piece you wrote about the medtech liability crisis? Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. We need someone with your insight at Raventon. She painted a picture of a different world, a place where my expertise would be valued, where I'd have autonomy, where I'd report directly to her. A female executive who understood the challenges women face in corporate legal departments. She spoke about mentorship, about building something meaningful together, about changing the boys' club culture of corporate legal. I had to fight for everything I have, she told me over coffee at the Four Seasons. She'd flown to Chicago just to meet me, just to convince me. Partners who dismissed my ideas, executives who talked over me in meetings, men who took credit for my work. I swore that when I got to this position, I'd lift up other women. I'd be the mentor I never had. God, I bought it. Every word. She offered me a 40% salary increase, a signing bonus that would clear my student loans, and a promise of true partnership. But more than that, she offered me hope. Hope that I could work somewhere that wouldn't destroy me, under someone who would champion my growth. My first month at Raventon was everything she'd promised. Camilla included me in executive meetings, introduced me as the sharpest legal mind she'd ever recruited, and publicly praised my contract reviews. She'd stop by my office with afternoon lattes, asking about my ideas, my perspectives on deals. When I caught a problematic indemnification clause that saved the company $2 million, she made sure the CEO knew it was my catch. This is how we do it, she'd said, raising her wine glass at a department dinner. Women supporting women. Harper's success is my success, and my success is hers. The other women in legal looked at us with such admiration. Here was Camilla Rhodes, the only female VP in the company, nurturing the next generation. She gave talks about female empowerment, sponsored women in law lunches, posted inspiring quotes on LinkedIn about breaking glass ceilings together. The shift was so gradual I almost missed it. First, she started protecting me from high-visibility situations. The board can be brutal, she'd say. Let me present your findings. I'll make sure you get credit, but I can handle their aggression better. I don't want them to steamroll you. Then came the gentle corrections in meetings. I'd make a point, and she'd rephrase it, making it sound just slightly different, just slightly hers. What Harper means became her favorite opening. By month 3, she was having me draft comprehensive risk assessments only to present them herself. You're so thorough, she'd say. But you need to learn the politics before you can navigate these waters. Watch how I handle it. I watched, all right. I watched her take my analysis of the Steinberg acquisition and present it word for word to the board as her own. When the CFO complimented the innovative approach to warranty limitations, my approach, she smiled and said, "Thank you. I've been developing this framework for years." But the master class in manipulation came with the smaller clients. She'd assign me the complex, high-risk contracts with impossible deadlines, then swoop in at the last minute with concerns. Always in writing, always after I'd submitted my work, always positioning herself as the careful supervisor, catching her subordinates' oversights. Harper's still learning, I overheard her tell Richard once. Brilliant mind, but she needs seasoning. That's why I review everything personally. The Corvallis deal was when I finally understood the game. She wasn't mentoring me, she was using me as a human shield. Every risky decision, every aggressive negotiation position, every corner cut to close deals faster, my name was on them. But her voice was behind them. That's when I decided to start building my insurance policy. The woman I'd trusted to pull me up was actually standing on my shoulders, using me as a stepping stone while keeping me just grateful enough, just hopeful enough, to stay in position. But the best part? She taught me everything I needed to know. Not about contracts or negotiations, but about corporate warfare, about documentation, about the importance of leaving a paper trail. Thank you for the mentorship, Camilla. It wasn't what you intended, but it was exactly what I needed. The manipulation became an art form, and Camilla was Michelangelo with a corporate paintbrush. You're too valuable to waste on politics, she'd say, steering me away from the quarterly business reviews where real decisions were made. Focus on what you do best, the technical work. Let me handle the relationship management. Translation: stay in your cave and produce work I can claim. She'd schedule mentoring sessions that were actually reconnaissance missions. Tell me your concerns about the Hartley deal, she'd probe, taking notes on her iPad. Then, miraculously, those exact concerns would appear in her executive summary, prefaced with, I've identified several critical issues. The gaslighting was subtle, almost elegant. When I'd suggest adding protective clauses to contracts, she'd nod thoughtfully, then later explain why we needed to be more flexible, more business-minded, less rigid in our thinking. But when deals went south, the narrative changed. Suddenly, I should have pushed harder, been more insistent, shown better judgment. Harper tends to be risk-averse. She told the senior leadership team during a strategy session I wasn't invited to but heard about from Jake in finance. I'm working with her on developing more commercial awareness. Meanwhile, my risk assessments, the ones she routinely ignored, had prevented 3 potential lawsuits. Not that anyone knew that except the 2 of us. The Franklin Industries contract was my wake-up call. I'd spent 2 weeks negotiating terms with their legal team, carefully balancing our need for speed with proper protection. The limitation of liability clause was a thing of beauty. Capped at contract value, excluded consequential damages, carved out specific indemnifications. Franklin's lawyers had finally agreed after I'd made a compelling case about mutual risk allocation. Then Camilla called me into her office. This is good work, she said, scrolling through the contract on her screen. But we need to show Franklin we're partners, not adversaries. Remove the liability cap. That exposes us to unlimited liability, I said. If their implementation fails, it won't fail. You're catastrophizing again. She turned her screen toward me, that maternal smile playing on her lips. Harper, I appreciate your thoroughness, but sometimes you need to see the bigger picture. The business team needs this deal closed by quarter end. We can't let legal be the department of no. But the risk assessment clearly shows. I've made my decision. The smile never wavered. Remove the cap. Oh, and I'll need you to initial the changes. Standard protocol. Standard protocol. Her favorite phrase when she wanted my fingerprints on her decisions. That night, I created my first shadow file. I saved 2 versions. The contract as I'd negotiated it, and the version she ordered me to change. I documented her instruction in a detailed memo to myself, BCCing my personal email, just in case. The pattern intensified over the following months. Every protective clause I added became unnecessarily conservative in her review. Every warning I raised was dismissed as pessimistic. But in our one-on-ones, she'd express concern about my lack of commercial judgment, suggesting I needed more training, more oversight, more of her guidance. I'm trying to protect you, she'd say when I pushed back. The executive team has certain expectations. If they think you're too junior, too careful, they'll never take you seriously. Trust me to manage your reputation. The irony was breathtaking. She was destroying my reputation while claiming to protect it, undermining my work while pretending to elevate it. I started keeping a journal, dates, times, exact quotes. I invested in a voice recorder disguised as a pen. Perfectly legal under our state's one-party consent law. Every meeting, every phone call, every casual conversation by the coffee machine went into my archive. "Why don't you let me present the Morrison contract analysis?" I asked her once, testing boundaries. "Oh, Harper?" That condescending tilt of her head. "You're not ready for that level of scrutiny. The board can be vicious. I've seen them destroy promising careers over one stumbled answer. Let me shield you until you're stronger." Shield me. Like I was some fragile bird that needed protection rather than a Harvard law graduate with 6 years of experience who'd handled billion-dollar mergers. The Corvallis biotech deal arrived on my desk in January, wrapped in red flags and tied with a bow of impossible deadlines. Healthcare data management, patient privacy protocols, HIPAA compliance. It was a minefield of potential liability. "This is your chance to shine," Camilla announced, dropping the file on my desk. "Full autonomy. Show me what you've learned." Full autonomy, until I tried to exercise it. Then every protection became a deal breaker. Every safeguard an unnecessary obstacle. I knew then that she wasn't training me to succeed. She was training me to fail in precisely the right way. Publicly enough to deflect blame from her. Privately enough that nobody would question her supervision. But I was done being her safety net. If she wanted to cut holes in the parachute, I'd make damn sure everyone knew who was holding the scissors. The transformation from victim to strategist happened on a rainy Tuesday in February. I was reviewing my notes from another mentoring session where Camilla had explained why my concerns about intellectual property provisions were overly cautious. When I realized I wasn't just documenting anymore, I was building a case. If she wanted to play chess, I'd become a grandmaster. My system evolved into something beautiful in its simplicity. Every contract now existed in 3 versions: the original with full protections, the Camilla edited version with her requested changes, and a detailed comparison document highlighting the differences and associated risks. I named them systematically: V1, protected; V2, modified; V3, SEER analysis, and stored them in a password-protected cloud drive that Camilla didn't know existed. The email game became my specialty. When she'd give verbal instructions to remove clauses, I'd follow up with written confirmation. Per our discussion at 2:30 p.m. today, I'm confirming your directive to remove the consequential damages exclusion from Section 12.4. Please note my attached risk assessment indicating potential exposure of $12 million. Awaiting your written approval to proceed. She'd respond with something vague. Proceed as discussed, or move forward with the business-friendly approach, thinking she was maintaining plausible deniability. She didn't realize she was creating a perfect trail of accountability. My pen recorder became my constant companion. Every meeting, meticulously cataloged, date, time, attendees, topics. I'd transcribe the important parts each evening, highlighting her specific directives. Remove the audit rights. Delete the termination for convenience clause. Eliminate the data breach notification requirement. The Corvallis deal escalated everything. "This is a $12 million contract," Camilla said during our initial strategy meeting. "Corvallis wants a partner, not a policeman. Keep it clean. Keep it simple." "Their infrastructure failed a security audit last year," I pointed out, sliding the report across her desk. "They had 2 minor breaches that they settled quietly. We need strong data protection clauses." She didn't even look at the report. That's exactly the kind of negative thinking that kills deals. They've obviously fixed their issues. Have they? There's no evidence of infrastructure improvements. And with HIPAA penalties increasing, Harper. That disappointed mother tone. Sometimes I wonder if you're really ready for this level of responsibility. Maybe I should assign this to someone with more commercial maturity. The threat was clear: play ball or be benched. but I'd learned her game now. Of course, I'll draft it according to your vision, I said smoothly. Should I proceed with standard protections that you can review and adjust, or would you prefer to specify which protections to exclude from the start? She smiled, thinking she'd won. Start clean. We can always add protections if the business team agrees they're necessary. I recorded every word. Over the next 3 weeks, I created 2 parallel universes. In one, a comprehensive contract that would have protected Raventon from every conceivable risk: data breaches, service failures, regulatory penalties, intellectual property disputes. I spent nights perfecting it, consulting with outside specialists on my own dime, crafting clauses that were both bulletproof and commercially reasonable. In the other universe, Camilla's contract emerged, stripped, naked, vulnerable. No data breach indemnification, no security audit rights, no notification requirements, no liability caps for patient data exposure. This is excellent work, she praised, reviewing her version. See how much cleaner it is? This is what executive thinking looks like. I wanted to laugh or scream. Instead, I smiled and made another recording. The masterstroke came when I insisted on adding one small protection, a routine warranty that Corvallis would comply with applicable laws. Even that feels aggressive, Camilla mused. It's completely standard, I replied. Removing it would be unprecedented. It might actually raise red flags. She agreed, not realizing she'd just acknowledged that everything else we'd removed was aggressive and non-standard. I created what I privately called the Doomsday Memo, a comprehensive analysis of every risk we were accepting, every protection we were waiving, every million-dollar exposure we were creating. I calculated potential losses, cited similar cases where companies had been destroyed by identical oversights, and included a section titled Recommendations Strongly Advised but Not Implemented. Then I did something Camilla had taught me without meaning to. I thought 3 moves ahead. I scheduled a meeting with Terry Walsh from IT Security, casually mentioning my concerns about data protection in vendor contracts. Just wanting to understand our internal capabilities better, I said. Terry, eager to talk shop, explained in detail how their monitoring systems could detect vendor breaches, but only if contracts required vendors to integrate with their security protocols. Are we requiring that in the Corvallis deal? He asked. That's being determined at the executive level. I replied carefully. Terry's concerned expression was all the confirmation I needed. I made sure to follow up with an email thanking him for his insights, creating another breadcrumb in my trail. By March, I had 63 documents, 32 hours of recordings, and a timeline that would make a prosecutor weep with joy. Every decision, every override, every dismissal of my concerns was preserved in digital amber. But the universe wasn't done delivering gifts. A LinkedIn message arrived from someone I'd never met. Hi Harper, I'm a security engineer at Corvallis. I saw you're handling our contract with Raventon. There's something you should know. My finger hovered over the delete button. Then I remembered Camilla's words. Sometimes opportunities come disguised as problems. She was right about that, at least. The Corvallis contract negotiation entered its final week with all the fanfare of a corporate coronation. Camilla was practically glowing, already drafting her announcement about the strategic partnership that would revolutionize healthcare data management. Meanwhile, I was fighting a war she didn't know existed. We need the $26 million data breach protection clause, I stated during our final review meeting. The conference room was packed. Camilla, 2 business development VPs, and the CFO dialing in from Boston. $26 million, Camilla laughed. Harper, that's more than twice the contract value. It's absurd. It's proportional to our potential exposure, I explained, pulling up my presentation. If patient data is compromised, we're looking at HIPAA fines, class action lawsuits, remediation costs, and reputational damage. $26 million is actually conservative. Corvallis will walk. Brad from business development interjected. They've already pushed back on the standard warranty clause. Then maybe we should walk, I said. The room went silent. Camilla's smile turned surgical. Harper, could you give us a moment? she said sweetly. I need to discuss something with the team. I was dismissed like a child from the adult table, but I'd expected this. My pen recorder was still running in my pocket, and I lingered just outside the door, catching fragments of conversation. Too junior to understand the bigger picture. Need someone who can balance risk with opportunity. I'll handle her. 20 minutes later, Camilla called me back in, alone. The clause stays, she said, her tone suggesting a generous concession. But modified, we'll cap it at $5 million. $5 million won't cover. It's 5 or nothing, Harper. And frankly, I'm disappointed in your performance today. Undermining me in front of the executive team? That's not the collaborative approach I've been trying to teach you. I pulled out my laptop, making a show of taking notes. So you're directing me to reduce the data breach protection from $26 million to $5 million, despite my risk assessment? I'm directing you to be a team player, she snapped, and stop documenting everything like you're building a legal case. It's paranoid and unprofessional. Oh, Camilla, if only you knew. That night, I worked until 3 a.m., creating 2 final versions. Version A included a modified $26 million protection clause that was so elegantly drafted even Corvallis's lawyers would struggle to object. Version B was Camilla's, $5 million in protection that might as well have been $5. I sent both to Camilla with a clear explanation of the differences and my formal recommendation for version A. Her response came at 7 a.m. Use version B. Remove any reference to version A from all systems. I don't want conflicting documents confusing anyone. I archived everything, then complied. The contract signing was scheduled for March 15th, 4 p.m. At 2:30 p.m., Camilla called an emergency meeting. Good news, she announced. Corvallis agreed to our terms with one small adjustment. They want to remove the breach protection clause entirely. They say it shows a lack of trust. Absolutely not, I said. It's done, she replied. I've already agreed. You agreed to remove our only protection against... I agreed to close a $12 million deal that the CEO is personally invested in. She stood, towering over me in her Louboutins. Harper, I've tried to mentor you, but you consistently fail to see beyond your narrow, risk-obsessed perspective. This is why you'll never advance without my protection. I need that in writing, I said quietly. Excuse me? Your directive to remove the data breach protection clause entirely. I need it in writing. Her face flushed. Are you seriously? It's company protocol for material contract changes, I interrupted. Section 12.7 of the Compliance Manual. You wrote that section yourself. She grabbed her laptop, fingers stabbing at the keys. Fine. There. Emailed. Remove data breach clause per executive decision. Happy? Thank you, I said, forwarding the email to my personal account before she'd even left the room. At 3:45 p.m., 15 minutes before the signing, I made one last attempt. I stood in Camilla's office with a printed risk assessment, the deleted clause highlighted in yellow. Camilla, I'm begging you to reconsider. If Corvallis has a breach... When did you become such a coward? She asked, signing the signature pages without looking up. This is business, Harper. Sometimes you take calculated risks. Is that your final position? Get out of my office. I recorded every word. The contract was executed at 4 p.m. sharp. Champagne was popped. The CEO called Camilla a deal-maker extraordinaire. She gave a speech about innovation and partnership and strategic vision, never mentioning my name once. I sat at my desk, staring at the email that had arrived that morning from my LinkedIn contact at Corvallis. The security engineer who'd reached out weeks ago had sent something more specific. Check the news in about 2 months. You'll want distance from this deal. 2 months. I had 2 months to build my ark before the flood. That night, I created my masterpiece, a single encrypted folder titled The Corvallis Chronicles. Every email, every recording, every version of the contract, every risk assessment, every dismissal of my concerns. I added a timeline showing the systematic removal of protections and who had ordered each deletion. At the very top, I placed Camilla's email from that afternoon. Remove data breach clause per executive decision. Then I booked a vacation to Barbuda for May, ensuring I'd be unreachable when the inevitable happened. Camilla thought she'd won. She'd gotten her deal, her accolades, her moment in the spotlight. She'd successfully positioned me as the overcautious junior who needed her wisdom and protection. But I knew something she didn't. In chess, sometimes you sacrifice your queen to win the game. And Camilla had just sacrificed hers. The LinkedIn message had been cryptic, but the follow-up was a masterclass in whistleblowing. Her name was Sarah Mensah, and she'd been Corvallis Biotech's senior security engineer until 6 weeks before our contract was signed. We met at a Starbucks in downtown Boston, two professionals having an unremarkable coffee on an unremarkable Thursday. They knew about the breach 3 months ago, Sarah said quietly, sliding a USB drive across the table. November 2023, 40,000 patient records compromised. They paid Bitcoin to keep it quiet. My hand stayed flat on the table. Why are you telling me this? Because I refused to sign their NDA when I left. Because they're about to do business with your company while sitting on a ticking time bomb. And because they fired me when I insisted we disclose it. This could destroy your career, I said. She smiled bitterly. They already did that. Blackballed me with every biotech in the city. I'm moving to Seattle next month, starting over. Might as well burn it down properly on my way out. The USB drive contained everything. Server logs showing the intrusion, internal emails discussing the cover-up, the Bitcoin wallet transactions, and most damning, a board presentation from January titled Risk Mitigation Strategy, Corvallis Data Incident. They're planning to disclose it eventually, Sarah explained, but not until after they've secured enough new contracts to survive the fallout. Your company is part of their survival strategy. When? I asked. May, maybe June. They need to show growth this quarter for their venture capital review. After that, she shrugged. I copied everything onto 3 separate encrypted drives that afternoon. One for my personal cloud storage, one hidden in my apartment, and one in a safety deposit box. The original USB went back to Sarah. We never met, I told her. Never. She agreed. Back at the office, I faced an ethical dilemma. I could report this immediately, kill the deal, save the company. But that would also save Camilla. She'd spin it as her due diligence, her wisdom in keeping me close to monitor my concerns. Somehow, she'd emerge as the hero who listened to her junior's paranoia just in time. No. This needed to play out completely. Instead, I documented my own investigation. I sent Camilla an email. Following up on our Corvallis contract, I've heard some market rumors about potential security issues. Should we conduct additional due diligence? Her response was predictable. Harper, the deal is closed. Stop trying to relitigate your lost arguments. Focus on your actual job. I printed that email and added it to my collection. Over the next 6 weeks, I built what I privately called the destruction file. Every piece of evidence was meticulously organized, cross-referenced, and annotated. I created an executive summary that a child could follow, showing the clear chain of decisions that led to our exposure. But the masterpiece was the timeline. A beautiful, color-coded document showing my initial risk assessments ignored, my recommended protections removed, my warnings about Corvallis dismissed, my attempts at due diligence shut down, Camilla's systematic elimination of every safeguard. I even added a section called Projected Losses with 3 scenarios. Best case, $26 million. Likely case, $45 million, including lawsuits. Worst case, $100 million, plus regulatory fines. In late April, I submitted my vacation request. 3 weeks in Barbuda, I told Camilla. You were right. I need to disconnect and gain perspective. Finally showing some wisdom. She approved it immediately. This will be good for you. When you come back, we'll talk about your development plan. I smiled and thanked her for her mentorship. The week before I left, I did 3 things. First, I backed up everything one more time. ensuring copies existed in places Camilla could never reach. Second, I drafted a comprehensive memo to the CEO and board, ready to send at a moment's notice. It began, I write to you with significant concerns about imminent legal exposure resulting from systematically ignored risk assessments in the Corvallis biotech contract. Third, I met with my lawyer, yes, I'd hired my own lawyer, to ensure everything I'd done was legal and protected under whistleblower statutes. You're covered, he assured me. But Harper, this is a nuclear option. You'll never work in this industry again if you push that button. I'm not pushing anything, I replied. I'm just standing back while Camilla pushes it herself. My last day in the office before vacation, Camilla stopped by my desk. You seem different lately, she observed. More accepting. I'm glad you're finally learning to trust my judgment. You've taught me so much, I said honestly. I've learned exactly how this world works. She preened, missing the subtext entirely. When you get back, we'll start preparing you for more visibility. Maybe even let you present to the board, with proper preparation. Of course. Of course, I agreed. With proper preparation. That night, I sent one final email to my personal account. The subject line was simple. Ready. The body contained just one line. All materials prepared for immediate distribution upon notification of Corvallis breach. Then I set my out-of-office message, packed my swimsuit, and prepared for the most relaxing vacation of my life. Camilla thought she'd broken me, molded me into her perfect scapegoat. She had no idea she'd actually forged me into something far more dangerous. A patient predator who'd learned from the best. The trap was set. All I had to do now was wait for her to walk into it. The news broke on May 18th, while I was snorkeling off the coast of Barbuda, watching parrotfish nibble at coral formations. My phone, safely waterproofed and tucked in my beach bag, had been buzzing all morning. I ignored it until after lunch. The headline on TechCrunch was beautiful. Corvallis Biotech admits to massive data breach. 40,000 patient records compromised since November. The story was worse than even Sarah had predicted. Not only had Corvallis hidden the breach, but they'd continued signing contracts with healthcare providers while knowing their security was compromised. The article specifically mentioned recent partnership deals that may face legal challenges. My phone had 37 missed calls, 22 from Camilla, 8 from Richard Brennan, our CEO, the rest from various executives and board members. I opened Camilla's texts first. Call me immediately. Harper, this is not a joke. Where are you? Check your email now. If you don't respond in 1 hour, you're terminated. The last one made me laugh out loud, startling a beach waiter who was bringing my second mojito. I opened my laptop and connected to the resort's Wi-Fi. My Raventon email was a disaster zone. The subject lines alone told the story. Urgent. Corvallis litigation. 26 manager claim. Emergency board meeting. Mandatory attendance. Who approved this contract? Legal department crisis meeting, now. The email from Corvallis's law firm was a work of art. They were suing us for failure to include adequate protection clauses, claiming our negligent drafting had exposed them to joint liability. They wanted us to cover half of any patient lawsuits, regulatory fines, and remediation costs. Their initial demand, $26 million. The exact amount I'd tried to protect us against. I sipped my mojito and opened the email from Richard Brennan. It was short. Harper, I need to understand how this happened. Call me immediately. Time to play the first card. I composed my response carefully. Richard, I'm currently on approved vacation in Barbuda. Limited connectivity. I've just seen the news about Corvallis. Attached, please find my original risk assessment warning of this exact scenario, dated January 15th. My recommended contract including 26 mailers data breach protection, dated February 28th. Email chain showing all my concerns were overruled. Timeline of protection removals with authorization signatures. I have additional documentation that may be helpful for our defense. However, given the serious nature of these decisions, I believe legal counsel should be present for any further discussions. I'm happy to cut my vacation short if needed, though my return flight isn't until May 30th. Best regards, Harper. I attached everything, every damning document, every dismissed warning, every paranoid concern that had just become prophetic. Then I hit send and BCC'd my personal lawyer. My phone rang within 90 seconds. Richard. Harper, I need you back here immediately. I understand the urgency, Richard, but I'm in Barbuda. The earliest flight I can get is... Where's Camilla in all this documentation? He interrupted. I let the silence stretch. I believe she's the authorizing signature on all protection removals. Christ. I heard papers shuffling. Harper, did she pressure you to remove these clauses? I think that's a conversation we should have with legal counsel present, I said carefully. I want to be completely accurate in my recollections. You recorded it, didn't you? His voice was sharp. The meetings. You recorded them. I maintained detailed notes per company policy. Don't play games with me, Harper. I'm not playing anything, Richard. I'm trying to protect Raventon from a $26 million loss that I explicitly warned against. I have 3 weeks of documentation showing my attempts to include protection clauses and executive decisions to remove them. Another pause. Send everything to legal, everything. Can you conference into the emergency board meeting tomorrow? The Wi-Fi here is unreliable. I lied, looking at the perfect connection, but I'll try my best. After hanging up, I opened Camilla's latest email. Harper, I don't know what game you're playing, but if you've sabotaged this company, I will personally ensure you never work in this industry again. Your little stunt with the forwarded emails changes nothing. You drafted this contract. Your name is on it. I crafted my response. Camilla. Per your email dated March 15th, 4:47 p.m. Remove data breach clause per executive decision. Per your email dated February 28th, 9:23 a.m. Proceed with business-friendly approach. Per your recorded statement in our March 15th meeting, I've made my decision. Remove the protection. My name may be on the draft, but your decisions are on the exposure. Currently on approved vacation. Will address upon return. Harper. Then I did something petty but satisfying. I sent an out-of-office message. I am currently out of office on approved vacation until May 30th. For urgent Corvallis-related matters, please note that all my original risk assessments and protection recommendations are archived in the legal shared drive folder titled Ignored Warnings Q1 2024. For questions about contract modifications, please contact Camilla Rhodes, who has final authorization on all changes. The beach suddenly seemed even more beautiful. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold that no corporate conference room would ever see. I ordered another mojito and opened my personal laptop. I had one more email to send, this one to the entire board of directors, from my personal account, distinguished board members. By now you're aware of the Corvallis situation. I want to ensure you have complete information for your emergency meeting. I will be providing full documentation upon my return, including recorded meetings where my protective measures were systematically removed against my explicit recommendations. I have also retained personal counsel to ensure all whistleblower protections are properly observed. I remain committed to Raventon's best interests and look forward to discussing how we can prevent similar exposures in the future. Respectfully, Harper Vale. Let Camilla explain that in the board meeting. I returned to Boston on May 30th, tanned, rested, and ready for war. The car service Raventon sent was a black Escalade with legal counsel waiting inside, not Camilla's team, but external counsel from Morrison & Associates, my old firm. The irony was delicious. Ms. Vale, the senior partner began before we'd even left the airport. The board has requested your immediate presence. Camilla Rhodes has been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Administrative leave? I kept my voice neutral. She submitted her resignation this morning. The board rejected it. They want her available for potential litigation. The conference room was packed when we arrived. Richard Brennan, the entire board. 3 lawyers, and notably absent, Camilla's empty chair. Harper, Richard began, we've reviewed everything. The recordings were illuminating. I'd sent them the best ones. Camilla calling my concerns paranoid. Camilla ordering removal of protections. Camilla threatening my job when I pushed back. We need to understand, board member Patricia Wong said. How do we minimize damage? I opened my laptop. I've prepared something. The presentation was titled Clarity Ledger, a blockchain solution for contract accountability. The Corvallis situation happened because one person could modify contracts without transparent oversight. I began. What if every contract modification was permanently recorded? What if every change required digital signatures that couldn't be denied later? What if risk assessments were immutably linked to final contracts? I walked them through my vision, a platform where contract negotiations lived on a private blockchain. Every edit tracked, every approval timestamped, every warning preserved. No more he said, she said. No more plausible deniability. You've already built this? Richard asked. I've been developing it for 3 months, I admitted. Nights and weekends, I have a working prototype. The room was silent. Finally, Patricia spoke. What do you want? I want to leave Raventon, I said simply. With a fair severance package and a contract to implement Clarity Ledger here as your first beta client, you need this system to prevent future Camillas. I need a flagship client to launch my company. And Camilla, Richard asked. That's your decision. But I'd suggest you check how many other contracts she modified without documentation. They found 17. 17 ticking time bombs with removed protections, dismissed warnings, and Harper Vale's name on the drafts. The total potential exposure was $312 million. Camilla was terminated for cause the next day. No severance, no recommendation. Her LinkedIn profile disappeared within a week. Last I heard, she was teaching contract law at a community college in New Hampshire. The settlement negotiations with Corvallis took 2 weeks. With my documentation, we paid $3 million instead of $26 million. The board called it a victory. I called it predictable. My exit package was generous. 6 months severance, full vesting of stock options, and a $2 million contract for Clarity Ledger implementation. Richard even offered me Camilla's job. I'm good, I told him. I learned everything I needed to know about corporate leadership. Clarity Ledger launched publicly 6 months later. Our tagline, every edit, every decision, every time. Our first major client after Raventon was Corvallis Biotech. Their new head of legal had found my LinkedIn profile and reached out. We need someone who understands the cost of hidden modifications, she said. Sarah Mensah, the whistleblower who'd started it all, became my first hire as Chief Security Officer. Transparency in contracts needs transparency in security, she said during her interview. It was perfect. Today, Clarity Ledger processes over $4 billion in contracts annually. We've prevented an estimated $450 million in litigation from undocumented modifications. The Harvard Business Review called us the solution to corporate contract manipulation. Camilla sent me one email, a year after everything went down. You destroyed my life. I responded with a screenshot of her own email from 2 years prior. Sometimes you need to see the bigger picture. She never wrote back. Standing on my office balcony now, yes, I have a corner office with a view of the harbor. I sometimes think about that moment in Barbuda. The moment I hit forward on that email while the ocean sparkled and Camilla's world began to crumble 3,000 miles away. She taught me everything she knew about corporate warfare. The student just happened to be a better study than the teacher. The best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a paper trail, time-stamped and digitally signed. While you're sipping mojitos on a beach you can finally afford. Every edit, every decision, every time. Especially the ones they wish you'd forget. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If you enjoyed this tale of corporate revenge, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Have you ever dealt with a toxic boss like Camilla? What would you have done in Harper's shoes? Let me know in the comments.